Who would have thought that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry would be back in the headlines once again? I know, we all did. We just didn't know what for or for when, even though we could have taken a guess. So there's a lot of different headlines, some of them rather scathing. And in the second half of the video, a secret letter from Prince Harry to the King, and also a new threat that his visa documents might be revealed. More about that a little bit later, so please do stick around. But first of all, if you haven't figured out we're here on Black Belt Secrets, please do subscribe. We are just that close now to 200,000 people that like to talk about this kind of gossipy stuff that I keep off my main channels. So thank you very much for subscribing and for joining me about these headlines here. So these, as I say, some of these rather scathing headlines. So straight to this first headline, Meghan's latest attack shows that she's trying to have it both ways. So what is the attack and what is she trying to have both ways? Well, apparently she was on an interview with Emily Chang on YouTube on the series called The Circle. In the interview, which happened to coincide with the release of the second series of the now infamous With Love Meghan show on Netflix, she made what would be rather a subtle remark about the restrictive dress code that apparently she was subjected to as a member of the senior royal family. I mean, heaven forfend the royal family is given some sort of dress code to which they must adhere. But sure enough, this is now being described as a brutal dig at her involvement with the royal family and her life there, specifically regarding the rules about what she's supposed to wear in public. Royal expert Ingrid Seward was speaking to The Sun and interpreted this as Meghan attempting to distance herself from her royal past whilst simultaneously trying to maintain a connection to the royal family, obviously to draw an interest in the Netflix show and in her brand as ever. So therefore, she's trying to have it both ways. So on the one hand, she's criticizing what she seems to refer to as a strict dress code. I mean, as I say, most people would probably expect the royal family to have a dress code to stick to, but nonetheless. So on the one hand, she seems to be subtly criticizing that, whilst at the same time, it would seem that she's trying to capitalize on her connections to the royal family via Prince Harry in order for people to watch her Netflix series. And I dare say that is probably one reason that Netflix were partnered with her in the first place. Now, many people didn't even expect the second series of the show With Love Meghan. Now, I was going to do a parody. I didn't in the end, although many of you wanted me to do so. I did do a bit of a review, and I'll come back to a little bit of a few points that I've picked up so far. I may or may not do a parody of it. Let me know in the comments if you want a parody of me doing this show. Some of you said, don't be absolutely ridiculous. You're too professional for that. Well, we're here on Black Belt Secrets. I do what I like here, so live with it. But there was a poll by The Express as to whether people want a third series, and an overwhelming percent of 97% of people said, no, we don't want a third series. So maybe I don't have access to a poll for the second series. Maybe they said the same for that as well. Who knows? The next headline we've got for you is apparently there is outrage by supporters and royal fans with the new As Ever update, slamming it as a mess. Now, she described, as in Meghan Markle described on social media, this new announcement of a new seasonal product drop beginning yesterday, I think, coinciding with the release of the second series of With Love. And according to her posts, the latest product is a delectable new fruit spread with so many more new offerings. Now, as the comments go on to note, there are only so many, quote, new offerings you can do with fruit until people say, this is just another fruit. This is just another offering of essentially the same thing. You can go into any local supermarket and find a whole array of different fruits and berries and mixtures and jams and all sorts of concoctions made, which they will say is a new variety of the same thing. But ultimately, there's a finite number of different things you can release while saying that it's new. So again, not such a successful launch of a new, quote, new product as it would seem, but nonetheless. So coming up in just a moment, my first thoughts and criticisms, if you like, of the second series of With Love Meghan and the secret letter from Prince Harry and why his visa status may ultimately be revealed. Coming back in just a second. Don't go away. As a segue for a moment, I'd like to tell you a story. This is a genuine story from about 25 years ago. I was reminded of this story just recently when a client asked me about the right to be forgotten and what the law is. So, about 25 years ago, a friend of mine was running a fairly small second-hand car garage. The way that he would find his vehicles and the way that he would make his money was quite interesting. He would look up either adverts of people selling their vehicles, or he'd find them on the street with a for sale sign in the window. This one vehicle that he saw and he got talking to me about just had an email address in the window. So it had for sale and just an email address. No phone number, but he wanted to talk to them because he'd sent an email explaining what he was doing, and presumably they just ignored him. But he wanted to talk to them so that he could just have this conversation. Anyway, so I took this email address and I start doing some digging online. Now, it wasn't easy to find, but eventually I linked the email address to a forum somewhere, which led to some other account somewhere. It might have been an eBay thing or whatever it was. One way or another, I traced back and eventually found who it was, found the name, and ultimately found a phone number. So I gave this to my friend and he phoned them up and obviously started talking to them about this vehicle. Now, obviously, they were a little bit alarmed and upset at the fact that they were called about this vehicle, given they didn't put the phone number in the window. Now, make no mistake, the phone number was visibly available online and it was in the public domain, so it wasn't exactly secret or anything like that. But it did highlight the concern that you can find these details about people online. And obviously, this doesn't just apply to phone numbers, it applies to all sorts of things. Family members, where you work, where you went to school, even where you live, and all sorts of other details that you probably wouldn't want people knowing, especially in today's modern age with online digital theft and even in-person theft and harassment and so on, when people know all of this information about you. And so that is where one of the partners to my channels comes in, called Incogni, because they help to wipe and erase you from the internet completely, in line with the right to be forgotten that my client asked me about. And in doing so, this will help to keep you safe. If you like, they can't harm you if they can't find you. And so not only do they contact companies whose business it is to sell your information on, but they will do custom removals so you can tell Incogni specifically where you want your information removed from, and they will get onto it. You will get access to a dashboard which will give you an ongoing update as to which companies and which websites have removed your information from their websites and from their servers. This acts not only as protection from identity theft, but also scam attempts and other online threats. And the great thing is, as a partner to my channels here, you get a great discount using the code BlackBeltSecrets at the checkout, which will give you 60% off the annual plan. It's an ongoing service and you'll see it continually removing this information as it pops up. And it will give you peace of mind knowing you're that little bit safer with your information being removed. So check out the link in the description. Don't forget the code BlackBeltSecrets, and the peace of mind is absolutely worth it. So let's take the briefest of looks before I come back to Prince Harry about the second series of With Love, Meghan. I will possibly, let me know in the comments if you want this, possibly do a full breakdown of everything I think wrong. Maybe I'll do a series of everything wrong with, and then insert the show name underneath. But the second series of With Love, Meghan, it boasts to be a glimpse into what Meghan's family life is like, although Prince Harry and the children do not appear in it themselves. So a little bit of a weird glimpse into family life when the family's not in it, is my first observation there. But it's the BBC, that's how they run with it, that's what they said. So I have one or two notes on this, which I won't bring them on screen, but I'll bring them across so I can read them and look at them. But first of all, right from episode 1, 2 minutes 50 in, there's a bit of a blip here in that if you remember Guy, who sadly died at the end of the last season, she said at 2 minutes 50 that Guy is having a beverage, but sadly, obviously, he died at the last season. So that shows that a lot of this was obviously filmed beforehand. And then Meghan was powdering Daniel after he powdered her with the same pad. But if you watch it, I mean, you don't have to watch it, but if you watch it, you'll notice that they had a different complexion. Now, I'm obviously not an expert at makeup. I don't wear makeup, whether you believe me or not. I don't wear makeup, but they were powdering each other with the same pad, but had a very different complexion. So I find that a bit odd. At 5 minutes and 2 seconds, she said that she and Daniel met in 2009, but there are multiple sites and articles that actually show that they met in 2011. Let's see if I can bring one of those on screen for you. Here it is on Hello Magazine, but I'll probably have to zoom in so you can actually read it. They were two of the masterminds behind Duchess Meghan's gorgeous bridal beauty look. Daniel and Meghan became friends after meeting back in 2011. So, not that they're on trial here, but which is it, 2009 or 2011? Discrepancies, or misremembered, or, if I were being less charitable, invented. At 8 minutes and 30 seconds, you may notice a huge difference between the first scarf and the second scarf, and if you're being uncharitable, you might say that the second one wasn't done by her. And at 9 minutes and 19 seconds, she says, "How come I've never done this before?" Again, rather suspect. Back to flower arranging, which she did before. The vases have got cracks on them and they're leaking. She appears to be quite fake at 14 minutes and 6 seconds. She says, "It is wild that I do flower arranging and calligraphy." And just looking at the cooking scene, this is rather chaotic and rather intense. It's really not enjoyable to watch in my personal view. If it is for recipes, then it's pretty difficult to follow. At 24 minutes and 36 seconds, she seems to be showing off in the garden again, which is just not relatable. At 25 minutes, 48 seconds onwards, it's more chaotic, more intense. Daniel looks lost. It's not a fun cooking together type of vibe. These are my notes, obviously. Meghan looks really intense as you're watching it. Daniel looks more and more lost as the time goes on. So in my brief summary conclusion, the scarf making, the flower arranging, the panic cooking, the intense panic and chaotic nature of the feeling throughout the whole episode is just a bit weird. And signs off again as Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. So all a bit strange. And just on to episode 2, Guy is still there. So obviously this was filmed last year. As to Prince Harry's secret letter to King Charles, by the way, just excuse the way this appears on screen because I block images because I can't be bothered with copyright complaints and such. But it appears that, well, it's been reported that there's been some secret letter sent by Prince Harry to the King. Some heartfelt letter, apparently secretly placed, honouring Second World War veterans at a national memorial just hours after King Charles and Queen Camilla's official visit. It says the King and Queen spearheaded the nation's commemoration of the 80th anniversary of VJ Day during an emotional ceremony at the National Memorial Arboretum in Staffordshire on Friday. The occasion marked the day Charles pledged that the sacrifice of the heroes who battled and perished at the Pacific and Far East campaigns during the Second World War shall never be forgotten. But also, the point of this is that it says that it comes to light that Prince Harry, who's dedicated 10 years to army service, also delivered a heartfelt tribute to the veterans by arranging a personal letter and wreath to be positioned at the Burma Star Memorial at the same site. Significant indication that he's eager to reconcile with the royal family and royal members, and reports suggest that he demanded a tribute be placed by a friend, with explicit orders to only position it at the memorial after his father and stepmother had departed the ceremony, ensuring that he wouldn't upstage anybody. So this would certainly seem to me that this letter is quite possibly an attempt to mend this feud between them. In photographs, according to GB News, the letter states, "For me, this anniversary carries an added layer of meaning. My late grandfather, Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, served in the Pacific campaign. He spoke with quiet humility about those years, but I know how deeply he respected all who stood beside him at the theatre of war. Today, as I think of him, I think also of each of you and the shared hardships, the bonds forged, and the legacy you leave." So this does seem to me to be an attempt at rekindling the relationship, and I, for one, hope that that succeeds. But finally, there are reports now from The Sun where Harry's now facing renewed scrutiny of his visa application, which, for the record, I don't think ultimately will be revealed. But after the Trump administration has now turned up more than 1,000 documents on his file, ultimately, to cut a very long story short, this says that he's been monitored very closely. There are thousands of pages and documents on Prince Harry and his application, etc. And the filings show that there were 517 potentially responsive records from the Bureau of Consular Affairs, 271 from the Office of the Legal Advisor and 2 from the Office of the Deputy Secretary of State. And these now apparently going to be reviewed by a judge to determine what should be made public. And apparently there were lines and lines and lines of redacted material, all of which leading to the conclusion that there's something in it that obviously they don't want people to see. And this probably isn't just a case of who reviewed the documents and how they were filed and when they were filed and things of this nature, but quite possibly there's a lot of information in there to do with what it was that he said. Because remember, the allegations were that he may well have lied in that application, given the revelations in his book Spare regarding cocaine and marijuana. So remember the underlying question: either he told the truth and has been given special treatment, or he lied, and that is a significant factor that everybody would consider a public interest. Now, obviously, none of this is going to be proven without actually revealing these documents, which ultimately I still don't think will be the case. I never have, but it is a fine line. I think it is a fine line between putting yourself and your whole life in the public arena through books and interviews and podcasts and so on, and at the same time wanting to maintain that privacy. But the law tends to fall down on the side of privacy. However much you've put yourself out in books and so on, the law tends to say, well, these documents really ought to remain private. But it does put them under renewed pressure, renewed scrutiny, and it may well tip against him. But we'll just have to wait and see, because these are now under the watch of a judge to see what, if anything, is going to be revealed. So more on that later. Please do subscribe and we'll come back for that. We'll see what happens, but obviously any of these things is never absolutely clear cut and dusted, however which way you look at it. So either way, please do subscribe, come back for more. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.